Next, we'll bring on Art Timmons to induct builder James Fox Chiasson.
Good evening. We agreed at our meetings that the addresses would average 15 minutes. So thanks for leaving me 30 seconds alone. As a member of the Board of Directors, it is my pleasure and honor to present the address for the induction of Jim Fox Chiasson. Fox is being inducted into the Builders category of our Hall of Fame. Fox was a long-time member of New Waterford. From his early years, he was involved with all aspects of sport in New Waterford. His own school years, he played all the school sports, such as hockey, baseball, rugby, and basketball. Even in those early years, he was involved with championship teams. Those include the Rotary-sponsored baseball team and Mount Carmel baseball team, each of which won Cape Breton championships. After his school years in 1942, Fox joined the war effort and enlisted in the Army. In 1944, he was injured in action. These injuries resulted in 5 years of convalescing in a hospital in Montreal. In 1950, Fox returned home and began a very notable career in coaching and teaching. He retired the year that Beck opened. In 1988, Fox was recognized by the Coal Bowl Committee. Here are some of the accomplishments that they cited that night. First, he was the coach of 1950-51 Mount Carmel boys basketball team, Nova Scotia champs. Second, he was coach of rugby and Mount Carmel and Central from 1950 to 56 inclusive and won several championships. Third, he was the first president of New Waterford Rotary Little League, and he chaired a very active 8-team league. There were lots of kids that wanted to play ball back then. 4, he coached 2 Nova Scotia High School girls basketball championships at St. Agnes. Hello. 5, he coached the Nova Scotia boys soccer championship at St. Agnes. Hello. 6, he coached 2 Nova Scotia juvenile baseball championships for the town of New Waterford. 7, in another age group, he coached the Nova Scotia Junior Baseball Championship for the town of New Waterford. 8, he coached a Nova Scotia Intermediate Women's Basketball Championship for the town of New Waterford. And last but not least, he coached the only New Waterford high school hockey team to a provincial finals, losing closely to Bridgewater in the final series. Perhaps I'll say a little on that later. Okay. Now, for those of you that are doing the math, that adds up to at least 8 different provincial championships in 4 different sports: baseball, basketball, soccer, rugby, and almost in hockey. So that must be a record unequaled in the history of this town of New Waterford. In 1957, Fox began teaching physical education, we called it PT back then, at St. Agnes. This automatically meant that he was coaching the school teams. Not just one team, but all the school teams. Therefore, he was expected to be in the gym all day long and coach all the teams in the evening and on the weekends. Now, you teachers in the audience, take note. He was doing this on a permissive license, so he wasn't in it to get rich. Rather, I think it was truly that he loved the sport and he was in it for the all-around education of students. As mentioned earlier, Fox retired when Beck opened in 1970. During the early years of Beck, he was frequently observing games, all the Beck games. He quietly watched the games and he'd never tell you how to coach. But if you asked him about a player, he could give you the athletic ancestry of every kid in town. He was always right, too. He knew this town very well. Now, just before I close, I'll go back to that hockey team. In 1959, Fox had a St. Agnes hockey team. And I was in grade 9, and I was very happy to be on the team. Anyway, we had no rink at that time, no indoor rink, but we had the rink on Matten Street, and we played a lot on that rink. Fox put us in the men's intermediate league, so we had a lot of practice and a lot of experience when playoff time came. Now, the headmaster's structure for playoffs was 2-game total goal, home and home. But we didn't have an indoor ice surface, so we had to play all the games on the road. So we faced McDonald High in Glace Bay Forum, Sydney Academy, 2-game total goal in Sydney Forum, Thompson High, 2-game total goal in North Sydney. That was 3 series just to get out of Cape Breton. Then we had the Eastern Nova Scotia, Trenton in the 2-game total goal in Glasgow. And finally, we got to the Nova Scotia Championship in Bridgewater, and we lost the series. Actually, we won the second game, but the margin was too large from the first game, so we didn't win the championship. However, I'm not telling the story to lament about that. I will say, though, I think if that had been a 2 out of 3 series, we would have won the Nova Scotia Championship, even on away rinks. And I tell this story because when we got to Bridgewater, well, first of all, there was 3 sets of brothers on the team. There was the Poirier brothers, there was the Stevenson brothers, and there was the Timmins brothers. Okay, and now our 2 big guns were Fadeda Stevenson and my brother Adrian. I was kind of a spare for the third line. I didn't get on very much, but I was happy because I was only in grade 9. Anyway, when we got to Bridgewater, there was an official there from the other school, and they had all the clippings from the Cape Breton Post of our league, and they wanted to know what number was Stevenson and Timmins. So Fox told them Fadeda Stevenson's brother's number, and he gave them my number, which was the truth. And anyway, come game time, he started Marshall's line. Marshall was our center. Now this was very strange because we didn't play much all year, let alone start a game in the playoffs. So we started the game, and within 30 seconds, first whistle, he whipped us off, and he whipped on the first line. And Fadeda Stevenson picked up the puck behind our net, stick handled through the whole team, and buried the puck in the goal, and we were ahead 1-0. And at that time, the benches were on opposite sides. So the Bridgewater coach was looking with a puzzled look over at our bench, and Fox just had this sly smirk on his face. He wouldn't even look over, but we knew he was saying, "I gotcha." Anyway, a bit of exaggeration there, but it's a good story. Okay, in closing, I'd like to make the same observation I made about Fox when we honored the soccer team a couple of years ago. And that is this: there are hundreds of individuals in this town, especially in the St. Agnes community, who have the highest respect for Fox Chiasson. I mean, personally, I taught with Fox, and he coached me for 3 different sports. And through all of those occasions, I never once heard him criticize an official in front of his players. So I think that speaks volumes of the integrity of this man. Fox passed away in 1990. Now, on behalf, we have 2 representatives from Fox family here tonight, so I'm going to call on Fox's nephews, Pat Chiasson and Charlie McCollum. Charlie's on the baseball team being honored also. So if Charlie and Pat could come up and receive the induction for Mr. Fox Chiasson into the Builders category.
Good evening. I wasn't expecting to say anything about Fox, but for those of you who knew Fox, he was a very unassuming man, and you probably would have had a hard time getting him here tonight. He didn't coach sports for the glory, as they said. He just liked to be involved. Very unassuming man. I think every woman in Waterford knew Fox because he coached so many women's teams. And I know what he would do with that plaque, and he would put it in his closet, and it would be there forever, because he used to get so many gifts from the girls at Christmas time at the school, and he would open them up just to see what was in them, and then he would throw them in the closet, and they just seemed to be there forever. But that's just the type of guy he was. His injuries in World War II were very serious, so he obviously couldn't play sports after that, and he had one of his biggest problems was hearing, and so he had hearing aids. And one of the things he would always do is, if the conversation was not what he liked, he would just go to let you know that he wasn't interested. So, but anyway, it's nice to hear some of the stories I didn't even know. But Fox was a long time on the scene and greatly deserved, and we thank you for the honor.
I don't recognize a whole lot of people here. I haven't lived here in a long time. It's been like 30 years since I lived here. But as a veteran to another veteran, this is like such an honor for me to be here, standing here, accepting this from my uncle. Like, I didn't even realize that I had to stand up here and do this. But apparently this is how it's going to go. So you guys got to put up with this for just like a minute. It's not going to be long, I swear. But from one veteran to another, like Charlie said, he suffered wounds from World War II, and nobody understands that stuff unless you lived it, to what he went through, and then he started a whole new life after that. That's what you got to realize. You know what I mean? That's all I got to say.
Great. Good job.